Hey guys, Ryan from Spyker Workshop, and today I'm going to show you guys something a little different than what I normally show on my channel. This is my car. It is fully electric. It's a Mitsubishi i-MiEV, or i-MiEV. It's from the year 2012, and I thought I would just give you kind of a overview slash review of this car. I bought it about 2 years ago used, and I paid $7,000 for it, which was, I'm pretty sure it's the cheapest you can get an electric car. They still go for that used. You can find them pretty easily. And what's interesting about mine is the place I bought it from used was actually an old pizza delivery company, and they use this to make their pizza delivery runs. So they I guess it went through a lot of charging cycles and stuff. So about 2 months after I bought it, the battery actually went out on this thing, which sucked, but the good thing is Mitsubishi completely covered it under their warranty. So this car has a brand new battery in it. Well, I guess it's about a year old now. Here's a quick look at the interior. I've heard from other people that it's pretty basic on the inside, but personally, my previous car was a 1997 Mercury Villager, which was, really rusty and old, and going from that to this car, to me this is like a luxury dream car for me. But what's cool about this, let me show you when I turn it on here, it's not like any other car's dashboard. So right now it's already running and in gear. That beeping was from my door open. But yeah, you can see the battery gauge there, how many miles it's estimated to get before I need to charge it. And with the new battery in here, I get about 72 to 75 miles of range when it's fully charged. They advertise this car at 60, but as you can see it's saying 60 while the battery is probably 15% or so drained. I got the basic version that doesn't have all the fancy stuff inside, but it still has a CD player and even a USB stick, so you can play music from USB in here, which is pretty much all I need. And it's hard to tell on camera, but the headroom in here, it's really spacious. It's actually taller on the inside than my Mercury Villager was. The only thing is it's a lot narrower, but there's still plenty of room in between. And the shifter lever, you can see they have Eco and B. This is normal drive. Eco will kind of limit how fast you can go just to save battery life. And boost, or I mean not boost, but regenerative braking is what that stands for. I typically drive in this mode because when you let your foot off the gas, you'll see the thing actually go into the charge thing, and the regenerative braking will actually slow the car down. Going from this car to a gas-powered car, I simply can't do it anymore. This thing drives so smooth, and the braking is just so nice. I'll take it out for a spin in a second here, but I'm going to quick show you outside one more time. So I normally run the car without the two seats lifted up, because this is a four-seater car, but you can lay them down, and then you have actually quite a huge cargo room for how small of a car this is. And back here is the I'm not going to take the cover off, but underneath this cover is all the electronics that control the motor and regenerative braking and stuff. And then, let's see if the camera can pick this up here. Right there is the electric motor. It's, I believe, about 60 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but electric motors have an insane amount of torque, so you don't really need that much horsepower. And then here is technically the transmission, but there is no transmission. It's simply a gear reduction with some gears. Like, here's the drive shaft right there. And the rear, it's rear wheel drive, and it's a solid axle back here. And then let me show you up front here. So then underneath the side of the car, you can't really make it out really on camera, but this big black thing here is the battery tray. So up underneath there is where I believe there's like 80 different cells. The battery is a 16 kilowatt battery, which is the smallest one that they sell in an electric car. I also put winter tires on this thing. We haven't really got that much snow yet, but they were significantly cheaper than all-season tires, so I decided to get them. You can see they have a pretty aggressive tread profile for how small this car is. And then what's interesting is the rear tires are a wider tire than the front. The front tires are actually pretty narrow, and that actually helps it get through the snow really easily, because it kind of cuts down to the bottom of the snow. And then let me show you what's under the hood. So the hood on this thing is very tiny, but the only thing really in here is your brake fluid. There is coolant because the battery in this car is liquid cooled. There's like an air conditioning system and a heating system for the battery. So in the summer, if the battery gets too warm, it can actually cool itself down. And then there's still a fairly normal 12-volt car battery in here, which runs all the, like the radio and stuff. And then wiper fluid is about it. And with the regenerative braking, your brakes are very infrequently used. So I've never had to fill up the brake fluid yet. But yeah, really not much going on in here. I believe this is the vacuum pump for your steering, or possibly brakes. Not really sure. But yeah, I'm gonna go take the car around and show you how it drives really quick. So what's crazy is just how quiet it is. Like, the car is running right now, and it's completely silent. Put it in reverse here and get started. Just gonna take it around the block really quick. So one thing that's sweet about this car is how small it is. It has a really low center of gravity from the weight of the battery pack. So you can round corners really fast. Well, I guess not that fast, but like 25 to 30 miles an hour. You can take a corner if you really wanted to. And you can see the charge thing going up and down from the regen braking. See, I was slipping on some snow there for a second. This thing has amazing traction control. You can see here, I'll take this corner at like 20 miles an hour, and because of the low center of gravity, this thing just handles so nicely. And like right here coming up to the stop sign, I just take my foot off of the gas. I'm not using the brake right now, but the car, pretty much below 10 miles an hour is when you need to brake, which saves on the brake pads like crazy. But just the sounds that the car makes. People think electric cars are silent, but the sound of the electric motor as it energizes sounds really sweet, I think. I'm actually going to roll my window down just so you can hear some of the outside sounds. So See if we can pick up the motor sound on the camera. Yeah, this thing is just really fun to drive compared to my minivan. For how small it is and how small of a motor it has like a insane amount of power. And one thing that people don't really understand is the fact that this car in particular, when you punch the throttle, like right now I'm gonna floor it, it doesn't really take off, but that's because the electronics are actually smoothing out the throttle, because electric motors, since they have so much torque, if you punch the gas, you know, you do an instant burnout basically. And I really like that because it makes the car a lot smoother and it's not so jerky. Like when I drive my mom's car, when you accidentally use too much gas, the car just jerks so much. It's not smooth at all. Like right now I'm flooring it. It makes it easier to not have to really pay attention to just how much gas you're giving it. I know it sounds kind of silly, but then when you're up around like 30 miles an hour or so, you don't really need to, or I mean when you're at like a high speed, like 30 miles an hour or so, after you step on the gas at that point, you actually do take off with quite a lot of power. But yeah, it's an interesting car for sure. And then you can hear I came to a stop here and just completely silent, but the car is still running. So one other cool thing about this car is its ability to perform very tight turns. I actually use this car for garage sailing in the summertime, and like that street right there, I did a U-turn in. Most cars could not, certainly not my minivan. And kind of what I was talking about earlier, like behind the scenes, the car is throttling itself, so you can't really use full torque from a stop. But if I slow down here to like 20 miles an hour, and then if I punch the throttle here, you can see the car actually like takes off. It's hard to see on camera, but like I did get lurched back in the chair when I punched it there, because there was a lot more torque going on. But from a stop, like at a stoplight or a stop sign, the car is like internally limiting you to like not full torque. You know, it kind of smooths it out so you don't do a burnout basically. Even the Teslas do that to an extent, but they still have so much power behind them that you can't really tell. But I'm gonna come up to a stoplight and show you again here in a second. So here I'll show you a 0 to 50, because I really don't want to do 60 right here. It's a 45. But the power that this car has is pretty crazy. Or there was 0 to 55. I don't want to go any faster than that here. But yeah, you could see that gas-powered car I just passed. This car will pretty much beat any average gas car off of a stoplight or stop sign. For how tiny it is, it just has so much torque and power. The acceleration in this car is just great, even with the throttle being limited by the smoothing system or whatever you would call that. It's just really nice. And like I was saying, like right now, if if I put the throttle down more, you can see it actually takes off and catches right back up to this car here. It just has a lot of power behind it at speed. It's just that limiting when you're kind of on, I guess, low. I think it has an effect below like 20 miles an hour. Then it just doesn't have as much torque because it's, you know, being software controlled. But yeah, this car is pretty great, I think, for sure. And I'm not sure if the camera can actually pick up the sound of the electric motor, but in person, it's pretty loud. It's like it really does kind of sound like a spaceship, like other people have said. And you can hear the regen braking too. Like that whole time I didn't use the brake. Now I'm using the brake. It's just such a cool car to drive. One other thing to quick talk about, since I do live in Minnesota, where it's pretty cold winters, I've had this car through one winter already last year, and the car itself drives great in the snow. It has really cool traction control, and you can actually disable the traction control. Like a couple times last year, I had pretty big snowfalls, and disabling traction control actually helped me get through some of the streets, because when the traction control is on, it just kind of bogs the vehicle down when you get in really, really deep snow. But turning that off will help. If someone happens to own this and they don't know, you hold in this traction control button for like 5 or 6 seconds to turn it off. But then another thing is your range in the winter. If you leave the heater off, it's about the same thing, like 70 miles or so. But if you turn the heater on, your range is drastically reduced. Like right here, I'll turn on the heat on full here, and you can see it went from like 70 something to 40. Like if I turn it back off, or 68, so it went from 68 to about 40 miles of range. But that's not completely accurate, because you could use the heat you know, just occasionally while you're driving. So like, say if I used it until I got down to like 30 miles of range, but then if I turned the heat off, it would probably come back up to like 45 miles of range. This would be if I left the heat on full, like, you know, for the entire 40 miles, which I really have never done before. Because on top of that, they have a heated seat. The driver only has a heated seat, but it's actually really nice. The lower back and the seat you sit on will heat up pretty nice. And I also bought this aftermarket heated steering wheel cover, which when I preheat the car before I go somewhere, if it's like really cold out, I can plug this thing in to the 12-volt outlet, and at least my hands won't be freezing. But yeah, it is definitely something, depending on, you know, how far you have to travel. But since I work from home, you know, I just don't really go anywhere that much. It's pretty much the exact same battery usage for the air conditioner, you know, during summertime. But at least for summertime, you know, just roll down the windows if you wanted to. So yeah, I'm gonna quick show you about charging. So on this car, there's actually 2 different charging ports. Similar to the Teslas, this thing can be quick charged with a 360 volts. Quick charge port is on this side. I have not used that yet, just because I know they say it's not very good for certain batteries. It limits the life on it just because it charges so fast. I believe quick charging on this is like 30 minutes from empty to full, which is just really hard on the batteries. And then on this side is the normal port that uses either 120 volts or 240. and I put in a 240 volt outlet on our garage, and this is the charger that I use here. It's a third-party one that I got from Amazon because the one that came with my car was only 120 volts, which takes like 20 hours or something to charge. But when you use a 240 volt, this takes about 4 to 6 hours. Since I had so much battery, this will probably only take about 2 hours to charge. But you can hear that fan sound was the heating and cooling system of the battery. It's fairly warm out today. It's like 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so it doesn't really need it on. And then you can see while it's charging the little outlet symbol, and you can see the battery meter. But yeah, the car is very simple and bare bones, but it works really well for me. About 70 miles of range is pretty much all I need. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thanks for watching.